So yesterday we tried to understand that if any company wants to incorporate I would say general meeting, then what are the conditions? So basically we have these three. It must have to be properly convened, properly constituted. If the question comes that what do you mean by properly convened? So if these two conditions are satisfied, we can say that meeting was properly convened, right? The first one is valid and proper authority, and the second one is valid and proper invitation. And basically we send the invitation through notice. So we have to take care about these two provisions, proper authority and valid invitation. Now as far as the proper authority is concerned, if I ask you the question that who is the proper authority? Who is the proper authority? So we have the 3 points, 3 answers. So whenever they are asking that who is the authority, so there are these 3 kinds of authority which has the right to call the general meeting. The first one is board of directors. Second one is members, and the third one is tribunal, or you can also call it as tribunal, right? So yeah, I think now this looks good. So the first one is board of directors, second is members, and then tribunal. Sometimes there is a question that there are two authorities. The first one is what? Board, and second is what? Members. What if I ask you this question to your exam is that what is the difference between the powers of board and powers of members to call general meeting? What is the difference between these two? Then what to answer like? So before I go to the members point, let's think about the board of directors, how they can go forward. Question goes like this: suppose there is a company, and let's say the company is, I would say, Reliance Industries Limited. And right now, who is the managing director of Reliance Industries Limited? Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Mr. Mukesh Ambani just woke up in the morning and just thought that, okay, I want to launch 5G technology. All right. So without consulting to anyone, what he did is like he called the company secretary and said that please distribute all the notices to all the shareholders and call what? General meeting. So here the question comes that meeting called by managing director of this company, is it valid according to the Companies Act 2013? What do you think? Is it valid? Answer to this question is it is not valid. Why it is not valid? Look at guys what is written. If you see, board of director is the authority and only director is not the authority. And what is the difference between the director and the board of directors? Look, director is actually individual concept. When I talk about board of directors, it is collective term. So when directors are getting together, plurality, then it constitutes the board. So one person alone as a director doesn't form or doesn't constitute the board. So board has the power. Single director doesn't have power no matter how much dominating he is in the company. Alright. So now the question comes, on what basis we can say that a meeting is called up by the board of directors and not by any single director? So law says if you want to call the general meeting, you have to go through this procedure. So generally procedure needs to be followed by board of directors to call the general meeting. So first of all, in order to call the general meeting, they need to call board meeting. And in the board meeting, I guess everyone you know that all the directors will be invited. All right, and we have to ensure the minimum quorum. You know what's a quorum is? Like minimum number of members or the directors need to be there in order to begin the discussion. So we have to ensure the quorum also, quorum requirement. And once it is ensured, company secretary counted that fine required number of the directors are present in the meeting, then students discussion will happen. That these are the matters and we want to call the general meeting. So what should be the appropriate date? So discussion will happen, okay? And at the end of the day, guys, on that discussion, voting will happen, right? And if guys voting went in the favor of the decision to call the general meeting by majority of the directors, we can say that board resolution has been passed. What has been passed, Bacha? Board resolution has been passed. And once board resolution has been passed in the board meeting, we can say that now company has decided to call the general meeting through board of directors. So it is a democratic process. It is not like, the vision or wish of one director will prevail. It is not like that. It is not like that. Have you understood how I would say the company calls the general meeting initially, right? Okay. So ultimately, I want to say at the end of the day, board resolution. This is how the things will continue. Fine. So just come back to this question now. In this question, what happened? Managing director himself called the general meeting. An exam is asking you, is it valid or not valid? So fundamental answer is like it is not valid. Why? Why democratic process is not followed? Board's approval is not taken. But what if I ask you that there is a one exception? That meeting called up by single director or even a company secretary or even any officer of the company which is at the top notch will be considered as valid. So what is that exception? What is that condition? Okay, emergency. No, it is not like that. Even if it is not emergency, but if you just follow those conditions, I can say that law will allow you to continue with the general meeting. So what is that? Okay, listen to this word. It is mentioned that board has the power. Now when I say mathematically that board has the power to call the general meeting. Can I say indirectly it is nothing but the approval of the board? Yes or no? So approval of the board is required whenever you want to call the general meeting. And approval would be nothing but by way of what? Board resolution. But law doesn't say that when the approval will be taken. Can I say that approval will be taken before issue of the notice or after issue of the notice? So what if one director has issued the notices of the general meeting to all the shareholders without the consent of the board? But subsequently he told all the directors that sorry, I didn't have time, matter was very serious and for the sake of company's welfare, I had to do this. What if now after dispatching the notices, board and the directors are getting together and they are passing the decision that invitations sent by so and so director, invitations sent by so and so company secretary or the officer, we are approving that. So here approval is happening, but not before dispatching the notices, but it is happening after dispatching the notices, and law says that it is allowed because law itna hi kehta bhai approval is needed even if you are taking this after dispatching the notices. Make sense or not? Make sense or not? Okay. So this is the things what you need to understand. So now the point comes, board of directors versus members. Board of directors versus members. Did you have any other class like before this 215? No, so 11 to 12 to 1 you had MDC. ठीक है, अच्छा विषय है. Good. So now the question comes, after learning the power of board of directors, let's talk about the power of members. So members means nothing but the shareholders. We can see, but the members is the most appropriate word than the shareholders. What if I ask this question for the 6 marks that elaborate the provisions and the rights of the members to call the general meeting under section 102? Do the members have the right to call the general meeting? So our basic answer is yes. Why it is given in the authority, so definitely they have. But what is the difference of the board of directors? For example, 500 members, which themselves are holding almost around 60% of the voting rights. Okay, there is a company in which there are actually total, let me tell you, almost around 800 members. How many members? Out of this 800 members, 500 members just had a unity, and they decided that without asking the board of directors, we want to conduct the general meeting. So they called the general meeting, and fortunately, all 500 people came. Not 500, let me make it 600 people attended the general meeting. And in the general meeting, they have decided to remove all the directors. Have you got my point? They call the meeting, but let me tell you, this meeting is not called up by the board of directors. What is mentioned earlier under section, if you read the section 99 and 100, board has not demanded and called up this general meeting, but 500 members who are holding 60% of the total votings united together in one WhatsApp like page, and they say that, "Oh, yaar, these directors are doing a lot of chick chicka. Let's remove them. यार, उड़ा दो उन लोगों को." So what they have done is like they got together, sent the invitations, and united at one place and passed this decision to remove all the directors and appoint new directors. Right? Against this decision, against this decision, board of directors went to court. So that is what is the question to your exam is by referring to the relevant provisions. Explain whether this decision to remove all the directors and appointing new one, it is legal and valid or not. So basic answer comes like, okay sir, according to the authority, basically these three authorities do have the right to call what? General meeting, board of directors, members and the TPL. Sir, board of directors we have understood. Members are also part of the authority and they have done this. Second part, they are majority in the nature. So when all the odds are in the favor of the members, meeting called up by the members is valid because they are authority. And if meeting called up by the members is valid, definitely decisions taken in that meeting should also be considered as valid. That's what is the general thought, I think, may get cultivated. But let me tell you, Uchit, that answer is not correct. So answer to this question is meeting called up by member. Over here, it is not as per the law. वो कानून के हिसाब से नहीं है. Definitely, as being the student, what we are searching for, the logic. Why? Why? So let's come to section 100. No doubt members do have the power, but they do not have the power as good as the board of directors. So that is what was my basic question, that the difference between the powers of board and power of members to call general meeting. So let me tell you, as far as the power of board is concerned, I am telling you it is unconditional and absolute. And what? Absolute. That means they can call it at any point of time. No need to follow any condition. But as in when I talk about the members, guys, their powers are not unconditional. Their power are what, Vacha? Their power are what? What? Their powers are conditional in nature. Now, what do you mean by here the term conditional? Until and unless certain conditions are satisfied. Again, I want to repeat, Vacha. Until and unless certain conditions are satisfied, members do not have the right to call the general meeting. Do you get me what I'm saying? They do not have right to call the general meeting. Okay, now maybe you are interested to know what are those conditions. Yes or no? Fine. So let's go the step by step when the members will get the power to call the general meeting. Okay? So first of all, there should have the eligibility. There should have what? Eligibility. According to the law, at least 1/10, okay, members holding at least 1/10 of the total voting power need to get gathered and once they are gathered, guys, once they are gathered, they need to sign one requisition. Requisition is the nothing but, I would say, request letter. After signing this requisition, okay, again I want to tell you what job. This requisition must have to be signed by at least how much people? 1/10. It may be signed by one person if he himself is holding at least 10% voting power, and if he doesn't have that much, then he can, I would say, aggregate other people. But at the end of the day, when you are applying for calling the general meeting, you should have how much? 1/10 minimum voting power. So once it is done, guys, the next point is you please approach the board and request to conduct general meeting. Tell the board we have certain points and we want to get them discussed. Please call the board meeting. So did you understand? Law says that first of all you have to request to the board of directors. You have to request to the company. Directly you cannot do. The ball is in whose court? Board's court. Yes or no? So here the law says that if within prescribed time, whatever the law has given, okay, if within the prescribed time, if, okay, there are 2 points. If board denies, or if within the prescribed time, board doesn't conduct general meeting, Again, I want to tell you, if the board denies, or within the prescribed time, board doesn't conduct the general meeting, then members gets the right to call the general meeting. Okay, then members get the right to call the general meeting. Under such circumstances, right, and decisions passed in such called up general meeting shall be considered valid in the eyes of law, and whatever we are discussing that is provided under section 100, you can easily read about it. Am I clear? Copy this. Okay, now the first question is, what is the prescribed time limit? Right down here in the above provision, what is prescribed time limit? That is the first question, right? What is prescribed time limit? So let's understand, bacha. Look, we have to understand now the timeline. What we have to understand? Timeline. Whenever the time is involved, we have to understand the timeline. So this is your timeline where you have first of all deposition of requisition. Requisition is nothing but that, I would say, consent letter. I think it looks good. Clear? Where you will deposit this requisition? To the board of directors. Now the law says that board of directors has 45 days to complete the meeting. How many days? Within 45 days, by anyhow they have to complete it within 45 days. So this is the timeline number one. So if I do ask this question in your exam, that as being the board, how much time you have in your hand, how much time you have in your hand to complete what? To complete what? The meeting. So you have 45 days. Now there are two options. Within 45 days, the directors are conducting the meeting, or they're outrightly denying that we do not want to, or they don't say anything, or they don't say anything. These three options are possible. Either they outrightly deny, or they conducting the meeting, or they remain silent. So in short, I'm telling you, if within this 45 days, if the board fail to conduct the meeting, then then yeah, please. If within such 45 days, if the board couldn't conduct the meeting, then shareholders of the company do have 3 months, bacha. How many days? I would say they have these, yes, 3 months to conduct the general meeting. Now, my question to you is these 3 months will be counted from which date? Now, I have just given you the diagram and tell me. These 3 months will be counted from which date? Look at, I have started this from here to here. So you have the two options. From the date of expiry of the 45 days, or from the day when you deposited the requisition. What should be your answer? These 3 months will be counted from the date of deposition. Please try to understand this. Please try to understand this. These 3 months will be counted from the date of deposition. Okay? So please remember this timeline. So ultimately, can I say 3 months is nothing but approximately 90 days? So can I say first 45 days are given to directors and the remaining 45 days are given to members? Ha! But if the directors are outrightly denying that we will not go at all, then they will get the almost around whole 3 months. At the day one, if the directors are denying, then they have 89 days to conduct the general meeting. All right? Okay, fine. Now here, what is the meaning of conduct? If I do ask a question, what do you mean by the term conduct? Basically, conduct can be understood in the two ways. The first one is to begin the meeting or to conclude the meeting. What do you mean by here the term conduct? You have the two options: begin or conclude. What should be your answer? So please understand, if this question comes to your MCQ for 1 or 2 marks, please remember, when I say the word conduct, it doesn't mean begin. It means conclude. That means along with all the adjournments, along with all the necessary adjustments, whatever you wanted to make it, you have to complete within this time frame. You have to complete within this time frame. Okay, sorry. So have you understood that what are the provisions about the members? So why did I say that board of directors power is unconditional? They no need to comply any conditions. Just one condition, they have to pass what? Board resolution, as we have taken up here, this entire process. But if I speak about here the members' power, come on guys, members' power is what? Conditional. And what is that condition you have understood? First of all, they will go to the board, and if the board denies, then the power will come to the hands of exactly. Otherwise, members are not entitled, not authorized. Students, am I clear till this? Now the biggest question comes here. Who will bear the expenses? So write down, sometimes this question can also be there at your exam. Now this topic what I'm discussing, please make it 4 stars, very, very important for your exam. Okay. The question goes like this, here, who will bear the expenses? Who will bear the expenses for the general meeting called up by members? Who will bear the expenses for the general meeting called up by the members? And that's what the question is. So the entire explanation is given in the 3 layers. How many layers? Layer number 1, layer number 2, and layer number 3. Layer number 1, layer number 2, and third one is the layer number 3. Layer number 1 says that expenses will be borne by members. And I know what you are thinking, it's unfair. Why? Why when at least 1/10 of the majority approaches to the company, it is compulsory for the board to conduct the general meeting because 10% is very substantial. But still, if the board doesn't do that, you tell me if the board would have called up the general meeting, who would have borne the expenses? Company. But here the members are calling this. So law ये कहता है कि expenses will be borne by the members. But members shall recover the expenses. Or you can write like this that but the members shall get the reimbursement of the expenses. From whom? From the company. So at the end of the day, who is paying? Company. Okay. And third point is, you tell me guys, even after at least 10% voting rights holders requested to you to conduct the general meeting, it was whose mistake that meeting couldn't get conducted? Board of directors. So don't you think that these people must have to be punished? There is no any explicit punishment in the law. But how did they define? They have simply said that exactly company shall deduct such expenses from the remuneration of directors. Look, mere acceptance is not sufficient. After accepting the proposal, you have to act on this. They acted on this like, okay, fine, then you can't because fine. Now, if the board of directors have accepted your proposal and they are conducting everything, company will bear. You just go and try to vote. That's all. Now, just one small thing what I have seen that while reading, I think there is a chance that we may miss it. And what is that missing point? You tell me guys, while reading this section 100, subsection 2, meeting called up by the members, did you see the political angle here? 1/10 of total majority. देखो जब हम इसको पढ़ते हैं तो लॉ ये कहता है कि भाई आपके पास एटलीस्ट 1/10 मेजोरिटी होनी चाहिए आइदर एज इंडिविजुअल और इन एग्रीगेट. Then you can go to the board and it is compulsory for the board to call the meeting. So don't you think guys, if you are not in majority, if you're not in power, but you have at least 1/10 of the total majority, support of the other shareholders, you can try to harass the management every time. For the small matters, you will just write a letter to the board, call the general meeting, and if you will harass them, how will they manage the company? Because every next day you are coming up with what? The new matter, new discussion, general meeting. But a general meeting is very expensive. This Christ campus is getting used by Infosys Limited every year to conduct its annual general meeting. All those who are from the Christ Junior School, I think they might know about this. I think they, I was say CGC say, oh, you are from CGC? Okay. Every year this campus is getting used for that. And guys, crores of rupees are getting paid just to maintain that general meeting. Whosoever guests are coming in, they are in thousands. You have to serve them good food in once in a year. But when we are calling general meeting, you are inviting everyone. So, beta, even if AGM is called up once in a year, but any general meeting requires the same amount of expenses. Whenever they are coming, you have to provide them what? Food and all that. Good sound system, hiring the good place. God knows how much our auditorium charges for that. Maybe not in thousands, it goes in lakhs for 3 days. Okay, fine. My point is if you have this one-tenth of the majority, can you agree to this? That definitely this 10% can be misused. And therefore, guys, law has provided that these expenses, okay, there's a note for your exam. The above expenses can be recovered only if meeting is successful and only lawful expenses can be charged. Only lawful expenses shall be recovered. Lawful, that means reasonable expenses will be recovered. Anything what was not needed won't be recovered. Am I clear? Now here the biggest question comes that what do you mean by the meeting is successful? Like what are the measurements measuring this success? Anyone has any idea? आप कैसे तय करोगे कि ये भाई सक्सेसफुल था या नहीं था? Resolutions? नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. This point I will discuss under section 103, not as of now. That what is the base of success? Law तो बोल दिया. These expenses will be recovered only if the meeting is what? Successful. But actually, what is the parameter to decide whether meeting was successful or not? Just because you have called up and you have one-tenth of the majority, does it mean that meeting is successful? No. So what is the parameter? I will tell you. If completed, no, it is not like that. Because completed means what you are asking the votings of the shareholders. Some of them getting favored in your favor, some of them may not get in your favor. So all the resolutions should get passed in your favor. I don't think so. According to the plan, as the way you have answered. तो बात ये समझो कि ये जरूरी नहीं होता. चलो मैं आपको बता दूं. इसका आंसर जानना चाहते हो या बाद में बताओ? Do you want to know this answer as of now? ठीक है. You see, let's understand the psychology first. You are the leader. You are the leader, and you want to protest against the politicians who are in the power. So what you have done is like you have distributed the pamphlets to the entire region that I want to conduct a rally where I want to deliver a speech against the existing government about their bad policies. You were expecting, my dear students, that the good crowd will come, and I will say like this: good media people will come. They will actually capture me, and I would be at the front page. I have said like this about Mr. Modi. But what if, guys, when you just went to the rally platform on the stage, you found only 5 people are present in the name of audience? Nobody else is there. How would you feel? Would you even dare to deliver the speech? Bhaiyo Behno, would you even dare to deliver the speech? आ जाइए. Would you even dare to deliver the speech? Come on. Your rally is failed or your rally is successful? आप समझ रहे हो, मीडिया छोड़ो, 5 बंदे आप इकट्ठा नहीं कर पाए भाई. 5 बंदे आप इकट्ठा नहीं कर पाए. That's what the law says here. Look, every meeting requires a quorum. Quorum, you understand, minimum people. Law says if you have total number of members 1000, then 5 members will be what? Quorum. बता दो बेटा, according to section 103, if total numbers of members are up to 1000, how much? Then, okay, this what I'm discussing, it is about, I would say, public company. Okay, about which company? Public company. Law says that quorum shall be 5 members personally present. If it is more than 1000 but up to 5000, the number is 15. And if it is more than 5000, the number is 30. So guys, if you have, let's say, 900 members, isn't it shameful that you couldn't even gather 5 people? I know that you had 1/10. You went to the board denied to conduct the meeting. You started on your own. But isn't it shameful that you could not start even 5 people? You couldn't even gather 5 people. So guys, your calling of meeting is successful or unsuccessful? Unsuccessful. So what I'm saying, your crowd will decide that whether it is successful or not successful. I hope you're understanding the gathering of the people. So it is not about the performance. It may be possible that gathering may not agree to your proposals. So agreeing and the thing should be conducted according to the plan. That is not the measurement for the success of the meeting. How much people got gathered. I am saying that if the minimum quorum is present, meeting is successful. Minimum quorum is not present, meeting is not successful. I hope you can write this much in your exam. ठीक है तो actually I didn't want to tell you but ठीक है चलो अभी इतना if I open these many cards it's fine but 103 still there are a lot of things to learn but I will take in the separate way अभी नहीं करूँगा मैं इसको ठीक है so guys now I hope you have understood that if the above expenses can be recovered how but all this expenses would be paid only if the meeting is what successful वो नोट मैंने लिखवा दिया ना and only lawful expenses shall be recovered. Something what you have paid over and above the lawful charges, that won't be paid. Make sense or not? So, okay, guys. So far we have just understood the difference between the two authorities. The first one is board of directors power to call the general meeting and members power to call the general meeting. Till this, everyone is clear? Yes or no? अरे बोलो भाई समझ में बात ठीक है नाउ थर्ड अथॉरिटी इज द ट्रिब्यूनल व्हाट इज ट्रिब्यूनल उसके बारे में सबसे पहले हम समझते हैं guys today if you want to file any case in the name of company or if you want to file any case on the company the place where you have to go it is the NCLT National Company Law Tribunal in Hindi the name is very satisfactory राष्ट्रीय कंपनी विधि अधिकरण कितना बढ़िया नाम है आहा ठीक है so guys don't consider that this is just a normal thing because it is equivalent to the code of this land I want to tell you I don't know whether have I ever discussed with you or not but first of all NCLT if you lost the case here then the another is the NCLAT that is the appellate tribunal and after then का directly Supreme Court आप समझो आप हाई कोर्ट में भी नहीं जाना आप सीधा सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कोई जा सकते हो सीधा सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जा सकते हो आप बीच में का सारा नलीफाई हो जाएगा so just imagine not only to that if you just look at the website over here and if you have the proper number right okay maybe you're asking who they all are I guess these all are the different judges maybe for the different benches अब ये देखो बेटा what order is passed so देखते हैं कि क्या क्या उन्होंने ऑर्डर पास किए हैं why it is not okay I think it's not responding ऐसा था क्या just a second